Thanks for staying with us this morning. We're in Manhattan, Kansas. We're at the Kansas Wheat Innovation Center. We're joined by Justin. Justin, thanks for joining us this morning.
Brian, it's good to be with you.
Fall harvest coming out of harvest right now. Corn and beans coming out of the fields, which means we've got wheat getting ready to go in.
Right, so it's that time of year where all farmers and markets are watching the weather. Right now we've had some pretty good harvest weather as beans and corn are coming off, and looks like a pretty good sorghum crop for the state of Kansas. When you think about Kansas farmers, we're some of the most diversified farmers in the U.S., planting a variety of crops, both fall and winter wheat crops. And so from a winter wheat perspective, how fall harvest affects us is one, the number of bushels being harvested, storage space available, both commercially and on-farm. But then what kind of moisture is available about wheat that's going to go in behind beans and corn. And definitely farmers right now are making those kind of decisions. We've had a little bit of moisture, but certainly not enough moisture that we would like to see for the wheat harvest to get started. But with beans coming off right now, we are seeing through the central part of the state and the eastern part of the state a good number of acres of wheat going in behind soybeans and corn, and anticipate to see that continue.
Well, we certainly had the opportunity last year to plant into some really good moisture and saw some good yields. Didn't turn out kind of the way we wanted it to, but hopefully this year will be a little bit different.
Right now there's, especially out west, probably some of the conditions have been as dry as they've been in the last several years, and so there's some anticipation of you plant in the dust, maybe your bins will bust, is an old saying, and so I think some guys are going to be hoping for that. But there are some areas where we just got some through kind of like Russell County on out west along I-70 there, where we just got some wheat. A lot of guys just finished up wheat planting, and we caught about a half-inch rain about a week ago, which is ideal. There still needs to be a little bit more moisture to come along to keep that crop going, but if we could get about a half-inch a week as we get into dormancy, that would really help this crop get off to a good start.
Change direction real quick. Taiwanese delegation here 3 weeks ago. Really important to Kansas wheat farmers.
Well, when you talk about wheat and exports, it's extremely important. Half the wheat that's grown in the state of Kansas and the U.S. depends on exports. It depends on having those relationships with good export customers that are going to come back every year to be buying our bushels, and in good years when prices are good, prices are bad, and right now prices have been a little bit depressed, and so we've got a big fall harvest coming. Exports have been a little slow, so having to work for those export markets, have those export customers and those relationships is extremely important.
Not only that, but Cuba is going to be extremely important to us coming forward.
Well, we certainly hope so, but that's certainly a priority from the Kansas Wheat Commission, is working on trade with Cuba. There's a lot of things that have to happen with policy, but certainly some steps in the right direction are being made. When we have trade with Cuba, it's going to be a natural fit for Kansas wheat farmers and other Kansas ag commodities, and we're certainly excited and pushing hard for that direction.
Perfect. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, talk about markets, basis, and some other opportunities for Kansas wheat farmers. Watching Kansas Ag Report. See you in just a minute.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center. Your stem cells, your health, your life. Farmers Insurance, your best protection against the unexpected. Call Agent Dan Key at 785-408-5459. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com. Blue River Traders, the finest selection of Western-style furniture for your home. BlueRiverTraders.com.
Thanks for staying with us. We're at the Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan. We're joined by Justin. Justin, again, thanks for staying with us. Before we went to the break, we were kind of talking about markets, Cuba being one of those markets. Again, we're going to change direction a little bit. We could be coming off a record corn crop here in the state of Kansas. We're going to be up about 2%, I think is the latest numbers. Soybeans the same way. Sorghum, we're going to be up about 70%. Storage is going to be a major issue coming into harvest next spring.
Well, certainly when you start having, and when you talk about markets, you start to see the impact of a large harvest coming onto the market when you start to see impacting on basis. And so that's why you're starting to see some of the basis levels starting to widen like they are. Storage is becoming a premium. We've had a pretty decent, an average, above average wheat crop. Not quite the crop that we thought we could have had, but we're hoping to have. But when you have already storage that kind of maybe somewhat at a premium for space, and then you start having a bean and corn crop, and then especially with the sorghum crop, that's going to be a pretty big crop for the state of Kansas coming off. Our commercial facilities are thinking about where they're going to put all that, and that does kind of tax the system a little bit. Exports are extremely important. We talked about that for wheat, and it's going to be important for sorghum too. Last year we were really fortunate to have a lot of our sorghum that was moving, out off to China. Whether or not China comes back in the market to help move some of those sorghum bushels, could be very interesting this year. But at the end of the day, bushels makes everybody's life a little bit easier. So even though you're getting that widened basis, it's good to see a good fall harvest coming off. Hopefully with a little bit of moisture that's still around from helping out those fall harvests is going to help us out with wheat plantings. And always important that we're working with our grain handling system in the state of Kansas and knowing where your markets are for each of the producers and knowing what your options are as far as basis and pricing opportunities. And encourage everybody to work with their local merchandisers to make their selling decisions.
We want to remind you to use certified seed here in the state of Kansas. We'll watch the Kansas Ag Report. We'll be back in just a minute.